This is IA Forward, your playbook for success as an independent insurance agent. Here to help you knock it out of the ballpark are your hosts, Shane Tatum and Tanya Lead.
Welcome to IA Forward. Let's talk a little bit of pop culture weirdness going on the Book of Faces right now.
Is there such a thing as non-election pop culture on social media right now?
There is one thing, and those are the posts that say, what is something that's a scam, but you have to buy anyway?
I'm going to just jump out on a limb and say that insurance is number one.
Insurance is beyond number one. I am seeing 8 out of 10 responses being insurance.
I've been on a little bit of a social media fast of the last week or two. I've limited my Facebook access to my computer. So I'm doing it for work purposes, but not for, I guess, personal reasons.
And I like that we're calling it that because that's what I'm doing. I had to get the Facebook app off my phone.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason that my personal cellular communication device should cause that much stress in my life.
Yeah. And I've done this before in this way, and I've tried to do a complete fast. What I've learned is there's so much communication happening on social platforms these days that you either have to be in the social media world or you have to reload traditional news apps. So I've done that. So this is what I've done. I took Facebook off, Twitter off, left LinkedIn on. That's a work thing. That's a business thing to me. I added Fox News and CNN to my existing Wall Street Journal. The interesting thing is when you remove the social media, if you want to be informed at all, if you don't, then just go on a fast and be done with it. That's not necessarily a hybrid. But if you still want to stay informed, then you will have to be willing to go into all 3 or 4 apps of news coverage that you choose to load. But even in the hybrid fast, I'm seeing these posts, which is interesting because you're seeing 8 out of 10 is your guesstimate there. And I'm saying even in a hybrid fast, I'm still seeing those posts. So it must be close to that 8, 9 out of 10 concept.
You don't have TikTok to tell you what stuff you need to buy for your house?
I do not have TikTok. I've never had TikTok. I do not have a TikTok account. I have YouTube. But when TikTok came out, it felt young. It felt teenagery. So I didn't do it. I know now it's blown up. Now a lot of people are using it in the business realm for video promotion. But no, I do not have TikTok.
This does not feel warm and fuzzy and good. Thinking about the fact that this is how we make our living and how the world perceives it.
It does not feel warm and fuzzy. And yet, for once, a social media trend that we should probably pay really close attention to, mainly because it's raw and pure feedback from the marketplace. And I don't think we should panic about it, but it's one of those things that we should at least pay attention to. We should maybe strategize about how we can combat the misinformation of this type of trend, because I really believe that it is somewhat of a misinformation situation only because these are individuals making this post who have not been made whole by insurance properly. They have either never had a claim situation or maybe they had a claim situation that went bad. There's a huge opportunity for us as an industry and certainly us as independent agencies to be the experts and to combat this trend in a way that helps us educate consumers in a better way. And that may sound like old and traditional, but it's one of those opportunities to speak that truth, do it professionally, and help people understand that no, it's not a scam and why it's not a scam. The first requirement of that is we have to believe it ourselves that it's truly not a scam. But if you don't believe it's the truth, then people are going to see through you. I firmly believe the independent agency system is the best distribution channel. I'm going to stay in that camp. Nobody's going to persuade me to all of a sudden believe that the direct channel or the captive channel is better. Not going to happen. As insurance professionals, we have to be the same way with this idea that just because it's a mandate, just because you have to have it in many circles there, whether we're talking mortgage requirement, whether we're talking auto insurance and law, whether we're calling it contractors under a contract with a general contractor or a plant or a facility, whatever the situation is that creates the so-called mandate, there is some choice within that mandate. And we have to be able to understand that, hey, Mr. Contractor, you don't have to take the job or bid on the jobs that require you to have the actual insurance coverage. You can do jobs that do not require insurance coverage and run naked, what I call run naked, without coverage. You can do that. There's nothing in the U.S. that I know of where, as a small contractor, that you are mandated to have coverage unless it is government or you're choosing to work in a facility like a plant, a GE plant, International Paper, whatever. You're choosing to do work for a large company who requires that by contract that you take coverage. You don't have to work for those people. You don't have to buy the boat, but if you buy the boat on loan, the bank's going to require you to carry insurance coverage to protect themselves. Is that a mandate? I don't know. You don't have to buy the boat. There's nothing transportation required that I know of to buy the boat, to go fishing, to go skiing or whatever. You want to buy the boat. If you want to be in operation as an insurance agency in the state that you live in, operate in, I'll just pick on Texas because that's where I'm at. If I want to be in business as an insurance agency in the state of Texas, I have to show financial responsibility to the Department of Insurance. I don't have to carry E&O. I can put up cash, I can put up a bond, or I can buy E&O insurance. Now, these are just things that I have to do because that's a state regulated environment. Does that mean insurance E&O is a scam? No. It means that I want to make sure that I don't get put out of business by a mistake of someone under my management responsibility. And so we carry E&O insurance to protect our consumers, our customers, and we carry it to protect our business. And oh, by the way, the state requires us to carry it. Does it make it a scam? No. That's the thing that immediately comes to mind is knowledge or lack of knowledge from the consumer side that would actually say this is a scam.
The definition of scam is a fraudulent or deceptive act or operation. And it's interesting that where you took this topic was how do we as insurance professionals look at insurance? And some of the things that I have heard insurance agency owners say about their carrier partners, they're not calling it a scam, but the things they are saying are synonymous with the definition of scam, fraudulent or deceptive act or operation. And so we as professionals aren't thinking, okay, this is a scam, but the things that we're saying, especially to each other, really imply that.
What we say matters.
And what we believe matters.
What we believe matters, and then what we say matters. We are insurance professionals. So if we're saying either directly or indirectly, if our language implies scam with our carrier partners, with a process, with whatever, then that negativity is going to come out in sidebar conversations. If we're saying it to each other, if we're saying it in the bubble of insurance, then it's going to go outward into society, and we're the ones that are supposed to be changing the conversation. If we don't believe it, we can't fake it. We can't hold that belief separately, compartmentalize that, and then convince someone of something different. I know there are really good deceivers out there in the world. I know that there are pure liars in the world. I'm not painting this picture that doesn't exist. But I also know that there's an elite 1% of liars on the planet. The other 99%, you can tell they're lying. That's my experience with things over the years, regardless of what we're talking about. So back to if you're an insurance professional and you don't really believe in your industry, it's going to come out and you're going to continue to contribute to part of the problem. The other thing is to actually be willing to take a step outward and defend your industry. If your partners are not taking care of business, we have a responsibility to get rid of the bad actors. That also hurts our industry and creates this scam feeling to it. I had an incredible conversation with a compliance attorney at the Department of Insurance in Texas several years ago. And we were going through a business model review, like just making sure we were in good shape and what we needed to do to be in compliance. And it was truly an eye-opening experience because most people think about regulators in negative terms. Oh my gosh, there's a regulator calling me. If you're a banker, you don't like it when the FDIC calls, or a state banking regulator. If you're a state bank, you don't like it when those people call you or want to come conduct an examination. Our premium finance company recently went through a very routine audit for the first time in a few years. And at first you're like, oh my gosh, we're going through an audit. And then there's another lens that it's like, hey, if we're not doing something right, we want to know. So then the audit becomes a positive experience because then your view of things is, okay, wait a minute, I want to do it right. And if I'm not doing it right, I want to be told that I'm not doing it right. This conversation experience with this compliance attorney several years ago now, the statement that will forever be branded into my brain was basically paraphrasing, Mr. Tatum, our goal is not to hurt or do something wrong to good agents. Our goal is to get the bad agents off the streets. So unless you're one of those really small percentage of bad agents, bad actors, then you should embrace compliance. You should embrace regulation within certain industries. It's good for us. That's the piece here about our carrier partners is there may be some bad actors within the partnership, the carriers. It could be a claims adjuster. It could be whoever. It could be someone who doesn't have the experience or wasn't trained well, and you want them to get better or you want them to get out. But what you don't want to do is perpetuate the feeling of scam, because now the consumer has a bad experience. Then it's full circle. There's this reality around carrier partnerships that we have a duty to step out, step up and defend, or step up and call out. This doesn't feel right. Tell me what's going on here. We see all this negativity and just anger out there, but yet there's also these situations where the quietness of what I would call niceness, we're afraid to hurt somebody's feelings, so we don't say anything. We just let it go. That hurts us in this scenario because maybe there's someone that doesn't know they're not doing it right and they need to be called out. They need to be corrected, but we're afraid to correct them because we're afraid that we're going to hurt their feelings, step on their toes, get them in trouble with their boss. That's a big part of this too, that ends up being a social media led pop culture thing that everybody jumps on that bandwagon. There's a duty here as insurance professionals that we step up and stand up to that.
Culturally right now, it seems like everyone's ready for a fight. Tensions are high. People are very emotional going into this election season. How do we respond to this and defend what we do without exacerbating the problem?
The first thing that comes to my mind is tone. There's a guy that's gained popularity out there on social, and his name's Ryan Holiday. And his whole platform is the ancient philosophy of stoicism and becoming a stoic, and the studying of some of the ancient greats around Marcus Aurelius, former Roman emperor, among others. Now, I've always said, and I've said publicly, and I'll continue to always be this way, the Bible is my source of truth. However, stoicism would be a little different. And so to hear someone like me say that I'm getting into this studying of the development of stoicism or becoming more stoic, these are not necessarily mystic or new age things, just to be clear. Being able to respond to that anger and being able to do it in a tone that is calming, that is being able to get someone to a place of having a conversation versus just a yelling of debate, of argument, and whoever yells the loudest wins, or whoever gives up first loses. Being able to break through all that, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes it is turn and walk away, but being able to do it with the right tone. as I have gone through looking at that stoic nature, there's a podcast out there, The Daily Stoic, that's Ryan's. Now, I'm on record using the phrase even keeled. That is stoicism in a way, as this anger runs at you, and not react, but respond. And how you respond matters, and tone matters. How you do this on social media is amplified 100 times, because guess what? You don't get to really give your tone on social media as a keyboard warrior. So you have to be really careful about how you respond in a social media realm when people can't hear the tone that you're trying to display.
Going back to the idea of stoicism, the phrase that you have used for years is control the controllables. And stoicism and this idea of reframing the mind to not react to what you can't control makes total sense. What would you say to somebody that you're seeing this on their social? How do we do this in black and white to start the wheels of changing a perception? Now, obviously, we can't change the world with the social media response, but what can we do to try to make a difference within that one touch point?
I struggle with actually responding at all. On social media, I would be one of those that has not gotten comfortable doing that, because the people on the other end are simply looking for a fight. So one of the real struggling things for me is I want to respond, and I want to combat the bad information or maybe flat out wrong information that I would see. But the sheer fear of getting into an argument and not being able to control myself, because I also am a competitive, persuasive talker, and I have those parts of me as well. I typically don't, and that's one of the things that I have to continue to get better at. If you're one of those people that is comfortable, that has reached comfort of being out there responding publicly, I will respond publicly if somebody does a review. I've done that multiple times, a negative review. I have yet to have a review that was accurate, that was negative, where there wasn't an explanation. Someone mad about the result. The result was right. They were just uneducated about the insurance process. They left a bad review. We responded. I personally responded in the public domain, laying out all the facts. And what's really interesting about that is on all but one occasion, I got zero response because I stayed factual. The factual nature of that is what helped, I believe. The other one that I remember that did have a response was of positiveness and thankfulness for explaining it and for solving the problem. The minute you respond factually with information that's accurate and with the right tone, professionally, I would say, is the right tone, the argument tries to suck you in, you have to let it go.
Part of what's causing this is the sophomoric level of advertising that insurance companies are using right now. To me, it has so cheapened our brand as a channel, not the brand of an individual carrier, but it has completely changed the perception of who we are, what we do, why we exist. And it's to be entertainment with a British lizard or an emu or flow or whatever. All of those things has changed the perception of what we do. My response would not be to come back with something factual, because what's a fact to us, someone else may not believe is really a fact. And I'm not quite sure something like that ever gets solved that way on social media. My response would be, hey, I would love to understand why you feel that way. Can we have a phone call on Tuesday at 10 o'clock so I can better understand this? And that puts it back in their court and opens a dialogue as opposed to this is right and you're wrong, even if that's not how you're saying it.
I agree with portions of that. And I do like the let's have a call. I do like let's get off of this platform and let's get into a dialogue. What I am reaching this point of is that fact is fact. Truth is truth. And this idea that your truth is not my truth, 2 + 2 is still 4, no matter what you do. There are certain parts of this world that truth is truth. And relative truth, this idea of relative truth is taking us down a path where we're just making it whatever feels good to us. That's an emotional thing. What's happening within the realm of this insurance scam pop culture trend, it's emotional. It's not a factual trend. It's not truth necessarily in most cases. It's people jumping on an emotional bandwagon, and it feels good to throw this stuff out there. But the reality of it is insurance. Insurance is a contract. There's no insurance agreements out there that isn't a contract. And so the contract says what is covered and what is not, but yet I'm not an attorney, and the courts have said, well, you didn't explain that to them. In a lot of ways, I gave you a contract and you didn't read it. I know when I have contracts as a business owner, if I sign a contract with a vendor, guess what that vendor is going to do when we have a dispute? That vendor is going to say, hey, the contract says XYZ. And you know what I can't do? I can't go, hey, that's not what I thought you meant. I thought you meant this. And of course, we go to court and we decide and let the courts determine and translate this was the spirit of it, or this is what it meant, or whatever. This happens every day in America. We have a product that is contract based. Most of our young people don't say anymore, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a professional athlete. They say, I'm going to grow up and be an influencer. So that is a huge trend. That is an interesting societal thing that is impacting this, because that's what you're talking about when you're talking about celebrity endorsements of things, or celebrities made it funny, or this happened. And everybody wants to be that to get that hit of dopamine, because that's what it does. More likes, more dopamine, more feel good. Forget the facts. That doesn't matter anymore because I feel good.
Back to topic of, is insurance a scam? According to social media, perception is reality. And I totally agree with you that truth is truth. But people believe what they believe is true based on prior history, based on the people around them, and based on what they perceive as fact. It may not be what's really fact, but trying to convince someone what is fact and trying to change their mind is a very difficult thing to do in black and white as a keyboard warrior. Opening up the idea of a conversation, even if they don't take you up on it, it can't really be perceived as a personal attack. And it opens up their mind to, well, maybe there's a conversation to be had. And long term, it creates the opportunity for a new client if they take you up on the offer.
Conversations are great. Dialogue is great. And we have to get there. How to get there and get people off the easily argumentative platform of keyboard warrioring and social media. I don't know that there's an easy answer to that. Can we have a conversation about this? That is definitely something that we have to do better at. We have to do better at it as an industry. We go too fast. We're trying to do maybe too much. We're trying to follow our own industry influencers and become $1 million producers in a year. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of peers to us from a podcast standpoint that talk about that. They're part of the culture of faster, more, big money. Hey, I'm not saying don't try to make as much money as you can. I'm just saying what happens in that is we don't stop, take time for conversations, and we perpetuate this scam philosophy because we didn't stop and have a conversation. The other thing is just to ignore it. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. We gave money to their basketball team, their dance team, their softball team, whatever thing they have going in the last 5 years, we've given money to it. And here's all these people in this circle that would be part of, I would say, my extended circle, asking about the best auto insurance And I'm sitting there watching these comments fly in. And I've finally just had to say, forget it. I'm done. Matter of fact, that was the beginning of my hybrid fast. I didn't respond. I didn't go out there and say, hey, I'm standing right here. Hey, I can hear you. But it was just like, wow, okay, this is interesting. And the answers comically were the carriers we provide. And we even got thrown in eventually as an agency, but it was also the carriers we provide. And so this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing that this is where we are with social media, is we're asking people of ignorance to give them advice on something when they literally have a community of professionals in their community standing right next to them. But they probably didn't like our answer. If I had some backstory, they probably didn't like the proper coverage, the right situation. In all reality, they didn't want to add their young driver at 16. They wanted to just leave that off. And so we knew too much. We actually knew too much about them because we were going to probably insure them properly, which led to a higher increase in cost. And so let's go to social media and let's see if I can get better advice from the ignorant side of the planet. We do this everywhere else. We do this with health. We do this with medical. Don't ask the doctor. Ask WebMD. Don't ask the lawyer. Put it out there in social media land. And this is around us everywhere. It is something we do have to, at some point, stand up and combat. I really wanted to say something because it was something that was literally in our community, but I didn't. I chose at that point to just walk away. It was probably best in the end.
I'm going to leave us today with this quote from Tom Landry. Leadership is a matter of having people look at you and gain confidence. If you're in control, they're in control.
Attitude's a choice. Make a great one.
Bye, y'all.
Ready to get the ball rolling with your independent agency? Learn more at IntegraAgent.com. That's IntegraAgent.com. Thank you for joining us on IA Forward. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now, or learn more at IAForward.com.